Today was the release of the latest indie animated project, the Homestuck pilot. It was posted on vivziepop's channel and was made by her new spindleroo studio. Is it any good? Let's talk about it. So up first, I'll give a quick synopsis of what happens. The pilot follows the story of John Egbert. We see some fun interactions with his friends while he sneaks around the house. He gets into a cinematic battle with his dad and he obtains the S-Burb game. He launches it on his computer and we get an awesome sequence teasing a bunch of feature characters, storylines and adventures that will happen later. There's also a short little Easter egg from Karkad after the credits. With the synopsis covered, let's get into my thoughts. I'll start off with the things I liked. First up, the animation style is beautiful. I think spindleroo did a fantastic job at taking the Homestuck comic and adapting it into an animated style that's both really eye-catching but also faithful to the original work. Although some of the copyrighted material had to be blurred out due to laws, they tried their best to keep most of them in. Viewers of my channel know I love these little hidden details because it helps to give indie shows so much more replayability, so I'm happy they were kept in. The fight scenes and choreography was spot on as well. When the other characters speak, they kind of segue into the frame. It's really well done and it gives the pilot so much personality. The characters themselves all look amazing. This is partly down to just how memorable the Homestuck cast was, but they've all been adapted perfectly into this style. Especially the featured characters at the end. It's a great way of hyping fans up for what's going to happen later. On the topic of the characters, I really enjoyed the voice casting. At least to me, every voice actor fit their role. The casting was brilliantly done. Toby Fox's performance as John Egbert is a great example. Chris O'Neill was the narrator and he reminded me a lot of Kane from the Digital Circus. I also liked Colleen O'Shaughnessy as Jade Harley. Spindlehorse Productions are all really good in the casting department, so I'm glad that spindleroo is carrying on that legacy. Linked in with that, the sound design overall was very strong. The sound effects fit what was happening on screen and didn't clash with the dialogue. The soundtrack also helped to emphasize the scenes. I think the one during the battle with Dad was my favourite. In terms of writing and storyline, I do have a couple of gripes which I'll mention in a bit, but generally it was good. Although I didn't find myself laughing much during the pilot, there was some comedic scenes and the overall tone was lighthearted. Although vivziepop gets a lot of flack for the overusage of swears, he or she didn't write it. It was written by Andrew Hussey and Sky Henwood. The swearing and lines feel authentic to when the comic was written, but they've clearly been adapted so it's a bit more up to date. If they had just word for word kept every interaction from the comic, I think it would bog the script down a lot and it would age it significantly. One of the things about the original webcomic is you click along and follow the story. It feels quite interactive. Although not possible in the pilot, the way they've done things work pretty well. It feels more like we're following along or watching a playthrough compared to playing it ourselves, if that makes sense. They did the best they could without sacrificing the charm that the original comic had. So with all of the things I liked about the pilot discussed, let's move on to chat about some of the gripes I had with it. The biggest elephant in the room is the actual content of the pilot itself. Homestuck is notorious for how complex and overloaded its lore is. This can be great for a lot of reasons, but it also makes adapting it into a visual format much more challenging. With the way the pilot works, I think they've missed the mark a little in making it approachable for a new audience. With how it was discussed in interviews, they wanted to make the Homestuck show both appealing for Homestuck fans, but also for brand new watchers, perhaps coming from Viv's other works or elsewhere. I think in this area they've faltered. It's clearly skewed towards the Homestuck side. I know a bit of the surface level knowledge about Homestuck. I covered the whole situation with it being revealed. However, I watched the pilot with a friend, and both me and him were blindsided by how fast the pacing was in this pilot. It was easily the fastest indie pilot I've ever seen, and as sad as it is to say, I think it holds it back a lot. It's 11 minutes long, but easily should have been 20 with how fast things were. It's hard to tell what is going on. The scenes sort of run on into the next, and it unfortunately gives us less opportunities to appreciate what's happening. If you're a brand new watcher, let's say someone who's watched Hell of a Boss, this pilot will be radically different to anything before. With other indie shows, you can watch the pilot and get a general gist of what's going on, the stakes and the aspirations for the characters. Here, if you haven't read the comic and just watched the pilot, you'll be extremely lost. It's the first time I've seen a pilot that requires extra homework. It's basically like a skill gap in a video game. People who know the source material will have a leg up over everyone else, and this is unfortunately a massive turn-off for a lot of casual fans. This is obviously one of the challenges that comes with adapting an already existing media, but I think they definitely could have made things more approachable for brand new fans. If you're fine with reading the comic after watching, then it's not that big of a problem. Like for me, I'll definitely be reading it in my own time. But if you just want the casual, laid-back pilot to watch, it might not be for you. Like I said earlier with the pacing, because it's so fast, it just impacts the overall tone and speech of the characters. Conversations stop and start rapidly, it's hard to follow. It makes the viewing experience very confusing, and as I discussed previously, this is absolutely going to turn a lot of people off this show. They will watch the pilot, figure it's not for them, and abandon it, and from what I've heard from friends, the Homestuck story generally gets more engaging and better as it goes on. This isn't really an issue with the pilot itself, but the marketing was extremely confusing with this show. It was constantly reposted on the Helva Boss Twitter, which pissed off Helva Boss fans. The exact time that the pilot would release was also revealed on an Instagram story on the spindleroo account. It probably should have been posted on vivzi's community tab as well, so that people are aware of its release, or put up as a YouTube premiere. If this was any other indie show without an already dedicated cult following, this marketing style would have killed all hype for the show. I actually think Homestuck could do quite well on Amazon Prime. It would fit in well with Hazbin Hotel and Helva Boss, but also Glitch's catalogue of shows which will eventually be ported there to be with Murder Drones. The absolute best thing is for it to be released on both Amazon Prime and YouTube. That way you can watch it for free on YouTube, but it also gives the show more advertising and funding since it's on Amazon Prime. So in conclusion, what do I think? I actually really enjoyed the Homestuck pilot. It was something I was excited about for a while, and I think it generally met those expectations. As I discussed though, however, it isn't perfect. The fast pacing and the way things are adapted make the viewing experience a bit difficult. I have high hopes for the future though, and I'm always hyped to see a new indie series. What do you think? Do you agree with my takes or have any thoughts of your own? Let me know down below. As always, thanks for watching.